Over the past 2 decades, few modern watches have undergone quite the transformation that we have just seen from the OMEGA Seamaster Planet Ocean. What began in 2005 as a bold, muscular, almost romantic tool watch, oversized, unapologetic, and brimming with character, has slowly evolved into something sharper, more deliberate, and arguably more luxurious than ever before. And if I'm being completely honest with you, there is perhaps no other watch on the market that I adore more than the original Planet Ocean, the 2200.50. I purchased mine to celebrate a milestone in my life, have worn it hard, have defended it often, and for me, it represents one of the purest expressions of what modern Omega once was. So when Omega unveiled the 4th generation of the Planet Ocean, I approached it with a healthy amount of skepticism and just the smallest bit of excitement. Though after spending some meaningful hands-on time with it, I can quite confidently say that this is not simply just an incremental update, yet a full recalibration. And today we're going to dig into exactly what that means, taking a look at the original Planet Ocean next to the latest 4th generation Omega Planet Ocean to see if they have improved the formula or refined the soul out of it. So to quickly understand why the latest generation feels like such a departure, we need to first understand where the entire thing began. Because the Planet Ocean itself arrived in 2005, though its DNA stretches back much further, back to the Seamaster dive watches of the 1960s, and more specifically, the older Omega Seamaster 300 dive watches introducing asymmetrical cases, lyre lugs, and bold aggressive styling purpose-built for underwater exploration. Funny enough, those lyre lugs would actually go on to inform the design language of one of the most iconic watches of all time, the Omega Speedmaster, which itself adopted the twisted lugs after the Seamaster did. These are not luxury objects, they were tools, built to be clean, highly legible, robust, and quietly beautiful in a way that only functional design can be. However, as time carried on, dive watches progressed past instruments, becoming symbols, and Omega needed something to bridge the gap. So to honor the utilitarian past while stepping confidently into the more modern, expressive era, flexing its specifications and aggressive architecture over its softer sibling, the Professional Diver 300, entered the Planet Ocean in 2005. Bigger, bolder, and more assertive with 600 meters of water resistance, a coaxial caliber which was relatively new at the time, and a design language that felt equal parts professional instrument and modern statement. And then immediately, it found itself on the most important wrist of modern watch culture, that of Daniel Craig as James Bond in Casino Royale. A moment that did more than just give it screen time, but reintroduced Omega's dive watch identity into a new generation alongside a Bond that personified the same. Grounded, physical, and less gadget-driven, it was not just a continuation of the line, but a defining piece of Omega's modern identity. Which brings us here, to the 4th generation not tied to any special event, to show us not just an evolution, but a complete recalibration of the line. Now before we dig into anything else, I want to address probably the most important aspect of this watch, its wearability. Because for all of the visual changes, all of the design tweaks, and all of that online debate, the way it wears is a true make or break factor. On paper, the original 2200.50 had absolutely no business wearing as well as it did. 45.5mm in diameter, 15mm thick, and over 50mm from lug to lug. Those are numbers today that would send most enthusiasts running. And yet, it worked. There was something special about the curvature of the case, those twisted lugs, the way the case back nestled into the wrist, and the way the mid-case tapered ever so slightly to allow it to drape rather than sit. It somehow just melts. And that was its magic trick. But now you fast forward to generation 4, and the case for the first time sits at 42mm in diameter, just under 14mm thick, and 47.5mm from lug to lug, while retaining its 600 meters of water resistance for a professional diving spec. But that wearing experience is completely different. This no longer relies on the curvature or softness to achieve its comfort. Instead, it achieves wearability through proportions and restraint. The case back flatter, now crafted from titanium, shaves weight and height where it actually matters. The lugs are shorter and more deliberate. And unlike others, this watch doesn't perch anymore, yet it settles in. Especially on my large size wrists, where typically I don't have an issue carrying larger watches. Though this 42mm doesn't feel all that much smaller, yet just a bit more resolved and intentional. It hugs the wrist rather than drapes, which is a subtle but important difference. What's fascinating to me is that despite shrinking the diameter, it feels spiritually closer to the original than the 2nd or 3rd generation ever did, wearing better in my opinion than either of them, as those versions grew thicker, a bit more layered, and slightly more top heavy. Those felt more like evolution by addition, whereas this one feels more like an evolution by subtraction. And that is the actual recalibration of the entire model. While the original Planet Ocean and its subsequent versions carried softness and curves in its twisted organic lugs, in slight opposition to that rugged tool watch roots, the new generation is sharper, more angular, and architectural. The transitions are more deliberate, finishing more intricate, and surfaces more assertively defined. And while I do miss a bit of the organic romance, I can attest that this is a step up in perceived luxury. It carries fine radial brushing on its interior surfaces, interrupted at the edges by a large polished facet. It shrinks the appearance of both the case and the newly added crown guards, offering reassurance. Case sides retain fine vertical brushing, ramping up to meet the OMEGA sign screw-in crown. This blended finishing does carry over to the bracelet, where it does have those polished center links, much to the begrudge of some of the dive watch enthusiast community. However, the sample that I had on hand did come with the rubber strap, so that is the version I'm going to be focusing on. Now luckily, that strap, it's pretty great. It tapers well, is flexible, holds grooves on its underside to repel water and debris, and carries a top texture to match the case's design language. Here, it doesn't feel like an afterthought like so many others do. The milled fold-over clasp closes with authority, matching the overall finishing very well. One omission here though is the lack of micro-adjust. At this level, the absence becomes noticeable, and feels slightly overlooked in comparison to the rest of the watch's mission. I understand the want for a slimmer clasp to make it a bit more everyday friendly. However, here a diver's clasp might have been a bit more appropriate. Overall, the case feels refined in its approach to add a little bit of luxury to the sportiness of the entire package, something that you want in a luxury dive watch. Returning to the top, the key details come back into view as physical tactility and visual design through the dial and bezel carry equal weight in its wearing experience. New with redesigned, squared-off grooves, the new bezel offers excellent action with precise, snappy, metallic clicks. Inside sits a ceramic bezel insert, deeply saturated here in blue, with updated, thinner numerals for a more restrained, cleaner visual. A lume pip joins the timing markers in the negative triangle frame at 60, tying the dial and bezel together cohesively. Passing a thin steel inner ring, a radiused flat sapphire crystal holds guard over the dial, doing an excellent job of cutting down on glare thanks to its anti-reflective treatment and offering a completely undistorted visual. Below, the black dial remains bold, layered, and well finished, holding elevated details. Polished indices rise above the matte black backdrop, like monolithic structures, each holding generous portions of well-emitting superluminova. Lume remains excellent, with pale blue emitting from most of its accents, and a green emitting from the minute hand and bezel pip for quicker orientation. Gone is the date window, instead replaced by a properly balanced Arabic numeral at 3, a change I will admit to initially questioning, but over time actually grew to prefer. The new typography has tightened yet again, leading to a more modern feeling 12, 3, 6, and 9 on the dial over the slightly scrolled numerals of old. The OMEGA logo is now proudly applied at 12, while the dial text at 6 is printed cleaner. Everything here feels measured and far more intentional, if not calculated. Something again I feel comes across a bit better in person than those initial renderings. Inside beats that OMEGA caliber 8912. Robust, anti-magnetic, and accurate, it offers a more than adequate 60 hours of power reserve while ticking away at a slightly slowed down rate of 3.5 Hz or 25,200 vibrations per hour. It does keep the independent jumping hour hand for easy time zone adjustments, a feature some argue might be more handy than the GMT complication. Now sure, some competitors might offer higher beat rates or a longer power reserve, or quite frankly both. But OMEGA's coaxial architecture and METAS certification carries weight and confidence behind the simple numbers. Then, compared to that original ETA-based 2500 with a still adequate 48 hours of power reserve, it is unquestionably a huge leap forward. And to you that might sound ridiculous, comparing a watch from roughly 20 years ago to a modern watch today. But to me, I think that this signifies a bit of a philosophical shift within OMEGA. The original is at the same time rougher, more romantic, tool forward, and confident in its bulk and curves. It feels ready to be knocked around on a boat deck without hesitation, which I say because mine has. The 4th generation feels refined, more brutalist, more polished, less raw, and more versatile. It can handle water with certainty, but feels equally comfortable underneath a cuff. The older model achieves more comfort through fluidity, the new one achieves it through proportion and balance. Two very different approaches yielding similar outcomes. And while I have heard many compare it to a Submariner, even offering it as an alternative, I personally don't see it as a direct alternative. I think it's here to play a different game. It's a bit more off the beaten path, a bit more design focused, and because of that, perhaps a bit more interesting. Running between $8,500 and $9,500 depending on configuration, this is not an impulse purchase, yet price is always a topic of discussion. And I just want to point out one thing here in that regard. Factoring in inflation from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, there is roughly a $1,800 delta from the inflation-adjusted original to the MSRP of the latest piece. For that, you're receiving titanium and ceramic components, a better improved movement, far improved finishing, and an overall package that feels like a much bigger delta than that number might suggest. Do you want it to cost less? Of course you do, and so do I. But you can't argue that nothing has changed and that the pricing structure doesn't make sense. While the latest generation Planet Ocean does not replace the original in my heart, I don't believe it's trying to. It instead sharpens the formula, leans into finishing, and embraces symmetry while cleaning up the profile. It has grown up. For longtime Planet Ocean fans, it may feel like a large departure. For new prospective buyers, it may feel like the most cohesive design it has ever been. And for me, it is the first time since the original Planet Ocean that the entire package feels balanced yet again. And that makes it compelling. But those are just my thoughts on the new OMEGA Seamaster Planet Ocean. I would love to know your thoughts in that comment section down below. While you're down there, please do like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out. But with all of that being said, I know that your time is very valuable and I really do appreciate you spending some of it with me here. I will be back very soon with another video, but until then, thank you very much for being here.